Game-changing Magic cards that just never worked out. Just like a trailer for an upcoming movie that you think is going to be amazing because of the scenes you saw inside that trailer, and then you find out the movie really wasn't great and that trailer was the best part of that entire movie. Well, Wizards of the Coast often does this. They give players a cool name, a cool idea or mechanic, but then they under-deliver on that finished product and it just doesn't work out and a lot of people lose a lot of money. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel. Now, before we get started in today's video, of course I want to say thank you to everyone who's been joining the channel, hitting that subscribe button, turning on the notification bells, and watching my content each and every day, and giving it a thumbs up because it's really helping the channel growth out there. We're getting closer to 20,000 subscribers, and the party we're going to have when we get there, every day we're a little bit closer. Thanks again, everyone. Now, when you think about the products that Wizards of the Coast has given us recently, I'm sure you can think of a few products, a few cards inside those products that you thought were going to be amazing. You thought those cards were going to go to the moon, and you know, these cards come out at $40, $50, $60 a card, and a lot of these cards sink in value because they just don't pan out. The hype cannot deliver on the conceptual idea of the card. It fails. Now, some of these cards, they do pick up later. Things get better down the road 3-4 years from now, and some of those cards that were $50-$60, they go down to $10-$12, eventually recovering when other cards, concepts, or ideas come along to kind of bolster the idea of the original card. Players forget that. It's kind of like a hash and repeat thing that happens over and over again, and players forget that it exists, but it happens all the time with Magic cards. Then there are the underachievers. Those commons and uncommons, they're like a couple of cents. Then they shoot up to $1, $2, $3. And they end up becoming something. But always remember and always be cautious because Wizards of the Coast is definitely in the reprint world right now where they want to batter down the values of cards that are too high. You can pick a Ragavan, you can see they knocked it down. You can pick all kinds of cards you can look at. Some of them, they're nurturing the IP and letting these cards rise in value because they want them to be game-changing cards that you appreciate, lock into, and buy. And in some cases, we can't help ourselves. We got to buy the card. We want to enjoy it. Nothing wrong with that as long as you understand and can reason with yourself that it's going to get reprinted and you're going to go and get slaughtered in the MTG finance world. If that doesn't matter in the end, you can actually just enjoy the card. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But for those of us who are always looking for a good deal, it is best to record prices on cards, look at them often, and find the best deals you can. Because Wizards is going to reprint them. They're going to come back around again, and you've got to be ready for it. Because if you can get the right card at the right time, it's amazing. And some of these cards that are horrible cards we thought were going to be game changers but didn't work out, some of these cards do turn around later on and do become something. But with each new extensive set they give us, players forget. They're forgetful groups of people. Something new and shiny came along. The Timmies got involved. They all went shopping together. And now they're sharing my nachos and cheese while we look at great ideas for card building. I love it. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at some great cards today. Cards that may not be worth anything yet, and they're in recent sets, but probably will come back around again. All right, let's get this started. First, we're going to start out here with Commander, the Brothers War, with Urza's Workshop. Remember this card starting at $15-20? I thought it was a pretty good card even back then. And look where this card has gone. Absolutely nowhere. Sunken price. Sure, it's still above $1. And you can only really get in the Commander decks, and some, you know, you can get it kind of inserted inside some of the set boosters and collector box. But look at what we're talking about for this card. It's a land card. It's Urza's. Land, Urza's. Like Urza's Factory and all that stuff, right? It says tap to add 1 waste mana to your mana pool, which is like a colorless, but it has Metalcraft. Add 1 waste for each Urza's land you control. Activate only if you control 3 or more artifacts. So think about the Urza's land, the Tron lands. Any Urza lands out there like Urza's, and you see this as an idea that is not fully realized yet. This card compared to Mishra's Workshop on the reserve list is pathetic. It doesn't even, they're not even close. I know they're trying to go for the idea, but see how they've added in the name, the nostalgia, the imagery to attract players to the card. Even though it's not going to be an expensive card, the nostalgic eye appeal of a card like this is valuable and intrinsic to a lot of players who just love the idea. Now later on, every couple of years, every 3-4 years, a new Urza's product could come along that causes this card to slowly build IP value for the company. They can just do it by inserting it. So owning a play set of 4 is no skin off your back, and there may be potential value for cards like this later on if this is a 10-year plan for the company to build a value of this card up to the point where they can insert it into reprint products down the road. Cards like this you have to pay attention to because there's no drawback to the card. It's still going to give you colorless, but that Metalcraft ability and the way they've engineered things with the Brothers War set, as well as future sets, really lets you know that they can take things in interesting avenues with Wizards of the Coast when they want to. Keep your eye on cards like this. They can go places. Now the next card, Urza Lord Protector. It has the name, it's got the set, and what happened? This card, and I bought these at 40 bucks. I couldn't help myself. I wanted to play test this right away and build some decks with it. And I bought 4 with 4 of the Mightstone, Weakstone combination card to make the big Urza Planeswalker. And I still use this in Arena when I was playing. I don't play Arena anymore, but when I was using it in every deck that was blue-white. Love this card. But there's more value to this card than just the flip side of making a giant Planeswalker. The first part there, it says, artifact, instant, and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. That passive ability is already decent. Now, 1 blue, 1 white, and 1 generic for a 2/4 legendary human artificer, this is pretty good already. This card could stand alone as a very, a mild, okay card. It's not bad. Now, of course, when you add this with the Meekstone, Mightstone, you make it go off, because don't forget, it lowers the casting cost of the Meekstone, Mightstone. You can really get things going if you can get this as a later day combo, bring it back around like your Happy Meal, and you're going to be hungry later, but you want to try it out. And this card is under $10 now. Is it going to fall more? Yes, it is. Because players aren't looking at it. They're not looking at the factors that could make this card great, or bring around the potential of a Super Friends deck, or other ideas that work with Metalcraft like the Urza's Lands. You have to look into the future to see these things, and most players look at the here and now. Some of the big YouTube channels, the guys who do a lot of the deck tests and stuff, they're looking ahead at this stuff. They're around that bell curve because it's their niche market to do so. I look at cards I like and try to find uses for them. Guys, this is interesting stuff to look at, but you have to be able to find a value of a card and what you're going to do with that card, what you hope that card can bring about. And if you can look that far ahead and see what could make it a great card, it may be the card to grab onto. A card like this for me, I already have my playset of 4. I don't have to worry about it. But going forward, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the next card, and you can see Urza, Lord High Artificer. This guy was at $90 at one point. Look how the mighty have fallen. This Modern Horizons card has just been whipped so many times already in the last few years that the price has collapsed. This card is under $20. Under 20 bucks US now from the high and mighty price. This is an IP that they have abused, okay? They've done it so often that it's just been too much, and it hasn't been able to recover, and it's continuing its free fall down. But is it a good card, and what are the chances of it recovering? Well, that depends on how Wizards wants to view the IP of this card. If they take it out of rotation for 4 or 5 years and let the market dry up these premium products a little bit, this card will rise in value again. It will recover some of its inherent value because it is a good card. It's 4 to cast, sure. It's a 1/4, but the abilities it gives you, the shuffling your library, exiling top cards, it has abilities that can mix with other cards like the other Urza type cards, the Urza lands. There is potential here for commander decks and future things. And is it a good time to buy? I think this card's actually going to fall to like 12 bucks. My sheets say it's going to keep falling, and it's going to do like 20, 30 cent falls over the entire next year. And the threat of reprint will keep this card very low right now. So if you're looking to get this card, it's a great opportunity, but I think it's going to go just a little bit lower. So I think you can hang in there. But look at where these game-changing cards have gone from. $90 card that people paid for and were hunting for inside, and now it's like, it's around everywhere. Don't worry, there's tons at your local shop. Now, Time Stretch. Do you remember this card? The original, I think it was an Odyssey. It was like a $30, $40 card. This card started out on the pre-sale around there, and then with Dominaria Remastered, this thing collapsed. The IP on this card is never going to recover. It's a reprintable card, and it shows what happens when you bring an older card that was kind of barely hanging on into a new way. It just becomes worthless. It's under 5 bucks. It's a great card to have. I love this card, okay? I love the card, but it basically is worthless now. So buy it for under 5 bucks. Be happy. You know, target player takes 2 extra turns. By the way, so much fun when you play these things in Commander and you give, you know, it says target player, so you give another player a turn who you want to live. Hilarious to play. On my time walking deck that I'm working on, still not fully, you know, functioning, but when I test it out and I do stuff like this, it's hilarious. Love this card, and I also love the fact that a card like this is that obtainable for players. It's not what I considered a key marquee card that players had to really worry about, because they're not going to reprint this in Standard ever. They're never going to take a chance of people taking 2 turns, so it's going to stick to formats like Commander, and that's fine for reprinting it as a near worthless card now. Now let's go ahead, and I mean worthless only in value sense, like it's under $5, right? Now, our next card, Undiscovered Paradise. Now this is a reserve list card, okay? But this thing was up around 40, 50 bucks, and it's been falling ever since, and it should not be falling, okay? This card should not be down there, just like a Rainbow Veil. When you look at this card, it says, add 1 color, any color, to your mana pool. At the beginning of your next untap phase, return to your hand. So, you know, you have to pick it up. But for landfall decks, you have to have this card. You want it in your deck. You want it every time. And now players are lucky enough to be able to find this thing for 10, 12 bucks on TCG Player, which of course, if you guys are going to buy anything on TCG Player, you'd use my affiliate link and help the channel out. Remember, in the description of my videos, every video I put out, there is a TCG affiliate link. You just click that link, takes you to TCG Player for your shopping experience, and anything you buy there, the Moxman gets a kickback of 3.5% from TCG Player to the Moxman to help the channel buy cards. It's amazing. Thank you everyone who takes the time to do it. And these cards are like 12 bucks when you go look at it, okay? Crazy good deals. And if you've never had one, if you don't have a landfall deck, you might want to buy this card in case it rebounds. Certain, like when you look at lands in the reserve list, it's the card you always have to look at because they're staple cards in so many decks and players just aren't looking at it right now because of the flashy bling we've got with like Lord of the Rings and stuff. Keep an eye out. Now our next card, Breathstealer's Crypt. A card that people thought around 2022, partway through, that this card was really going to do something. Now, can it do something? It's under $5 right now. Now, this thing is 1 black, 1 blue, 2 other. It's an enchantment, and enchantment decks are kind of making a big thing right now. Whenever any player draws a card, he or she reveals that card. If the card is a creature card, that player pays 3 life or discards the card. So, in a commander deck, if you have lots of creatures and somebody's drawing one every turn, they're going to take 3 damage turn after turn if they want to keep it, or they got to discard it. But if you, in an enchantment deck, have no mainstay creatures, you've just got enchantments, you have nothing to worry about. So a card like this does make perfect sense. A card like this probably should be in a deck like that, and now it's under $5. Could this card go higher? Absolutely. But there are much better reserve list cards people pay attention to, so things like Breathstealer's Crypt here, unless you're building an enchantment commander deck or you're playing a funky format where you like to see if they got creatures, this doesn't get a lot of attention. And that's fine for those players who want to pick this card up. Perfect opportunity. It's lost 75% of its old value. It's super cheap now. Great card. Now, Soul Echo. There's been buyouts on our channel. There's been buyouts from other individual interested parties. And this card, again, because of enchantments, this card is something you should take notice of because it's super cheap and it's reserve list and it does some funky stuff. This thing is 2 white plus X, so you kind of need a heavy mana pool. But it says, when you play Soul Echo, put X counters, because of course how much X mana you're going to spend, at the beginning of your upkeep. If there are no Echo counters on Soul Echo, bury it. Otherwise, target opponent may choose that for each 1 damage dealt to you until the end of your next keep, you know, removes an Echo counter. And when all the Echo counters are gone, it leaves play. But you do not lose the game for having less than 1 life. So they can put you at -500, but if that Soul Echo's in play, you're still alive. Okay? You're still there. And there's ways of replicating enchantments. There's ways of unsummoning and recasting enchantments. Keep all that stuff in mind. This is almost like an extra life. Like we're playing Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I'm going to get a life, and you just boing, ding, 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 and away it goes, man. That's what we're talking about with a card like this. And it's $1.50. You can find these things for like 40, 50 cents on TCG Player. Keep that stuff in mind, guys. Crazy stuff can happen. And cards that you thought were going to be a game changer, this thing has lost 95% of its value because it had a big buyout, and now it's got nothing, right? So what's going to happen? It's a Mirage card. It's 30 years old. What's going to happen? You got enchantment decks, things like this can find a home. Remember that kind of stuff because you never know when a game-changing card will actually change something. Here we go. How about a Johnny Vengeance? When you look at a Johnny Vengeance, and this card, It never hit like massive value, but it was like $10, $15. Because this thing has something that Planeswalkers don't have anymore. So when you're looking at this card, look carefully compared to other new Planeswalkers in the last couple of years. A Ajani Vengeance has 3 loyalty, it's a 4 casting cost, 2 colors. Its +1 ability says target permanent doesn't untap during its controller's untap phase. That already is pretty good. It can defend itself. But the -2 is it does 3 damage to target creature or player and you gain 3 life. So this thing can keep you alive and keep things going. But it's the -7. Destroy all lands target player controls. This Planeswalker actually has useful abilities. Not all target creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. All target creatures get +1/+0. All target creatures get a +1 counter. One target creature gets a +1 counter. Comparatively speaking, this guy's a game-ending card if you can keep him alive for 4 turns and get around to that 5th turn and pop things off. Use things that have proliferate and you get extra counters on this thing? Come on. Karn's Basin, other cards you can use to pump this. This is an actual useful card and we're talking under $5 now. This card is under $5. That is where we are at. And people don't even think about it. I don't even see this card played anymore. I played it last week in a Super Friends 60 card deck and people don't remember the card. They don't remember this version of a Ajani. It's hilarious. Now, in the same vein, here we are taking a look at Obliterate. Now, I showed you guys the other day this card, and I said other land destruction type things. Take a look at this one. Obliterate can't be countered. This is a cheap card, guys. Cheap card. Odyssey card from the list. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They can't be regenerated. But that would leave you with your Planeswalkers and your enchantments. Don't underestimate things like this. I'm not saying they're being played now. I'm saying they could be played. Expect the unexpected. And if you're one of those people who like to be janky, put this in and have some fun. I'm telling you, crazy stuff out there. Now, the last card I want to share with you is Ral Zarek. At one point, I considered this a game-changing card that you just couldn't come back from. In a 60-card deck built around Super Friends and turn-taking, he is the champion. He is the one I went to as the go-to card. He used to be like a $30, $40 card. And now, because of reprints and he's been with Commander decks and stuff, he's like a $1 card. Yeah, the foil still has value because Dragon Maze foils were still hard to get. But let's look at this card and you decide for yourself if Ral Zarek was ever worth it. Number one, he's a time-walking card. Don't forget that. He comes in as a 4 casting cost. 1 blue, 1 red, 2 other. 4 loyalty, not 3 like a Ajani Vengeance. His +1 power is tap target permanent to untap another target permanent. So you can bring him in. He actually only costs you 3 to cast because you get 1 of your mana back. Just like the good old Urza block days, you get a little bit of the mana back for that stuff. His -2 power is Ral Zarek deals 3 damage to target creature or player. That's great for dealing with low-level threats that are in his face. And then his -7, flip 5 coins, take an extra turn for each one that comes up heads. That is where he can shine in the right construction and build, and it doesn't matter if he's worthless. At one point, that was a game-changing card. I used him all the time in Dragon's Maze. 4 of them in a deck. It was brutal to have to face off at that stuff. And nowadays, with proliferate, can I pronounce this correctly now? With proliferate, you can pump this stuff up. And players never see it coming. Players haven't even seen these cards in some cases because it just doesn't get played anymore. You can throw people for a loop and it costs you $1. Amazing stuff. And who knows where cards like this may come back around based on the construction that Wizards gives us with new sets. Old game-changing cards or cards that should have been game-changers that didn't work out can always come back around again, which means look for those areas of the cards you think are valuable, and those are cards you should grab. Hey guys, thanks a lot. You've hung out with me long enough. It's time to move on to the next part of your day. I hope you had a great time stopping in with me today. Can't wait to see the comments in the comment section. Let me know if there's any cards you think should be on the list. Maybe I'll do some research and add those cards into the next party. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the top 10. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of the channel. A reminder to all patrons, yes, the live stream will happen this weekend. It is the Patreon giveaway for patrons and YouTube membership members, but it's going to be at my other location, so, it might be a little bit awkward. We'll see how it works out. Thanks again, patrons. Well, a happy Boomstick Friday to you, and thanks for hanging out here at the end of the video. Yeah, this is the ramble jamble section. Gotta stretch the legs, gotta keep moving, burn those calories, keep things going, keep energized. And I hope you guys are having an awesome day. So here we are at the end of the video. I gotta be honest, guys, this is amazing. To catch a new wave of subscribers coming in to boost things along for the channel. Viewership's up a little bit. It means there's a little extra money to start buying some of the stuff I need for the 20K party. It's going well. Yeah, we've lost a few patrons, unfortunately, which kind of slows other things down, but we do the best we can. We all are in this world, so I still thank every patron who's helped me out and keeping the channel going, as well as the new views coming in, which helps get the channel going to the 20K party and helps the purchases start, because that's pretty awesome. On my part, I am going to take on the third job. I am, because I think if I take on another job, we can get the money going a little bit better and help kind of facilitate things for the party. So I may do that. We're gonna have to see in the next few weeks if it all works out with the time scheduling. So it's gonna be awesome. Can't help it. I'm pretty excited. I know you guys are too. It's just awesome to be here every day on the channel with everyone. So thanks for being such amazing people. Don't forget to have a good time. Take a friend to Magic this weekend. And yeah, for us in Canada, it's the Canada Day long weekend. So I'll be a little crazy, but it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. Got relatives and family coming, so hope there's no background noise, but bear with me if there is.